Ooh, sorry. All right, this is for Fox once again, and this is a request assigned for Johnny. The name of this video is "The Most Disturbing True Crime Cases." Ooh, okay, let's check it out. Okay.
This case takes place in Poland in the year 1999.
Poland, okay.
This story is one of the most frightening I have come across, but there isn't a great deal of information available. There are no images of the perpetrator nor the victim alive. There are only images of the crime scene.
Oh
So
my
for this
god.
video,
Please don't
it will
show
have to
that.
be audio only.
Please.
Vladimir W. was a 26-year-old man who lived in the Caucasus for a large portion of his life, where he lived with his mother and his sister. It's reported that he grew up incredibly poor due to his mother and father breaking up.
Damn,
Vladimir
that
attended
sucks.
university in Poland, where he studied medicine for his first year. However, he changed his mind and decided to pursue a degree
And then
in
got Megan here
psychology.
to
He studied psychology
hold in
for
case it
3
gets
years
scared.
before deciding to drop out of this field too. After leaving university, Vladimir was unemployed. He ended up moving in with his father and grandfather in a village outside of Krakow. His mother and sister still lived in the Caucasus. It's not clear as to why he didn't move back in with his mother, but
Hmm.
one reason could be due to a lack of money. Vladimir had a deep disdain for his father. As I said earlier, his mother and father had separated when he was younger. The reason for this was because his father had cheated on his mother. His father had relations with one of his friend's daughters that was 30 years younger than he was at the time. After Vladimir's mother found out, she informed her side of the family. The mother's family members threatened Vladimir's father to a degree that he had no choice but to move to Poland.
Wow.
Once reaching Poland, Vladimir's father made no effort with his children, and despite being a wealthy man, he contributed nothing financially. For the duration of Vladimir's stay with his father in Poland, he was unemployed. He spent much of his time reading and playing sports. Whilst living in the house, the hatred he felt for his father continued to grow. He would later say that he considered his father's attitude and life to be immoral, and so he began plotting a sinister plan. In May of 1999, Vladimir lured his father into the cellar and pulled out a stun gun.
Oh god.
Vladimir tried to use this device on his father, but this proved to be
Ooh.
unsuccessful. He then pulled out a sharpened screwdriver and punctured his father's chest multiple times,
Hold on, guys.
ending his life. After this, he hung his father by the legs in the cellar, and using a surgical scalpel and a shovel, he began decapitating him.
Oh
Once
my
the head was
god.
removed, he collected his blood in a bucket and made 2 large incisions to the back of his
Okay.
father's legs.
This is
Vladimir cut
messed
off his
up.
father's head and neck and walked upstairs into his bedroom. He spent the whole night carefully separating the skin from the skull and muscles. After
Oh.
successfully removing the skin, he threw what was left of the head into the garden and got to work piecing together the
Video age, you're fucking restricted now.
flesh and stitching it together using prosthetic plastic in the process too. Once the human skin mask was completed, he shaved his head and placed the mask over his head. He then
Oh
put on
my
his father's
god.
clothing,
Did he watch the Child's Play remake and then got ideas from the scene where it puts a guy's face on a watermelon?
hat, and glasses.
Jesus.
Vladimir then left his house and sat on a bench. After sitting on this bench
You
for
watch
some
Child's Play,
time, he
Texas
was
Chainsaw
still alone.
Massacre.
It doesn't seem that anybody noticed he was wearing the mask. At some point, his grandfather, who had extremely poor vision, came back to the house. Vladimir, still wearing the mask and his father's clothing, began a conversation with his grandfather. Due to his poor vision, and because Vladimir was putting on a voice, the grandfather firmly believed that he was speaking to his son. He had no idea that his grandson was standing in front of him, wearing his son's face. The
Oh my
two even
god.
sat and
Straight
had
out of the
breakfast
Texas
together
Chainsaw
and
Massacre.
conversed. However, the more they spoke, the more the grandfather began to realize that his son sounded different. The grandfather became somewhat suspicious, but he didn't say anything. After they finished eating breakfast, the grandfather began looking around the house. Eventually, he made his way to the cellar, and there he found his son's decapitated body. Upon seeing
Jesus.
this horrific sight, the grandfather fled from the house and went to the next door neighbor. Once reaching the neighbor's
Like this
house,
for sick.
he made a call
This is
to
sick.
the police. Vladimir soon realized that his grandfather had discovered the crime scene, so he packed up some belongings, including the clothing his father was wearing when he was killed, and he fled from the scene. But Vladimir didn't go far. He found a hiding space where he could watch the investigation of his father's murder unfold. Upon entering the crime scene, investigators found the father's body tied up by his legs with his arms wide open, appearing like an upside-down cross. The human
That's
mask,
creepy.
a sharpened screwdriver, and a shovel were found on the floor. Inside Vladimir's room, investigators found the needle and thread that had been used to sew together the skin, a surgical scalpel, prosthetic plastic, and some small pieces of
This
scalp.
is
Not long after
demented.
police had arrived at the scene and began investigating, Vladimir came out of the spot where he had been hiding. He sat on a bus stop bench and waited. It was there where he was later arrested. Following his
Rightfully
arrest,
so.
he admitted guilt right away. Vladimir was asked why he had committed such a horrific crime. Vladimir explained his deep hatred for his father and
Doesn't
how
mean you
he
have to
had
kill
abandoned
him.
him, his sister, and his mother. He said that in his eyes, he was justified in killing his father due to his
He didn't know what coping mechanism
He
was
went
or
on to
what
say that he had planned
a counselor
the murder
was.
and mutilation for some time. On that day, he had prepared the tools he would need in the cellar to kill his father. According to reports, Vladimir then told
Whoever
the
makes these
police that the
videos
murder
or
of his
this
father
guy
was
is
a
really
work of
good at
art,
telling the stories.
stating that he wanted
These
to
stories.
illustrate extreme human meanness, and that the crime was an act with no holds barred. Vladimir said that part of the inspiration for the murder was the movie Seven. In this movie, the killer begins killing people who he thinks represents one of the 7 deadly sins.
Seven was a weird movie. Good movie though.
Of his father while speaking to his grandfather, because in his words he wanted to play a game. He wanted to see how long he could
Did you
speak
watch
to his
Saw 2?
grandfather before he realized. When speaking of the crime he committed, Vladimir said he hung up his father's body upside down with his arms wide open for a reason. He did this to symbolize an upside down cross, because, quote, the head of this kind of scoundrel should not even hang on a devil's cross. He also said, a man's worth
He's gonna give me
is
nightmares.
in his values rather than on his face. So removing his father's face was to symbolize his lack of face. He also explained that freeing the body from the presence of the head through decapitation was to symbolize the punishment, since the head was guilty of everything. Strangely enough, a somewhat similar case occurred in Poland a year before this one. A woman by the name of Katarzyna was killed and skinned. The killer
What is wrong with people, man?
And made a human suit. The police believed that Vladimir W. was responsible for this crime too. However, it came to light that somebody else was responsible. I do have a video on the case of Katarzyna. If you want to watch it, a link will be pinned in the comments.
No, thank you. Not for me.
This case has to be one of the most terrifying.
Unless you guys request it, then I'll react to it, but
the whole thing is just beyond disturbing.
it is. It's fucking messed up.
Created a mask out of his face, and how he sat and ate breakfast with his grandfather with a mask on is something that sounds right out of a horror movie.
Exactly.
This really did happen. As I said at the start of the video, there are images of the crime scene, so be careful if you choose to look into this.
I ain't looking up that shit.
There are even
Fuck that.
images of the skin mask of the victim. The images are by far some of the most horrific I have ever seen. According to reports, Vladimir was diagnosed with borderline schizoid personality, and that this condition sets considerable limitations on his capacity to understand the meaning of the offense and the ability to guide his behavior. From what I can tell, He was ultimately sentenced to 25 years in prison. However, I can imagine
He was
that
life
it's
or
very
execution,
unlikely
if you
that
ask
he will
me.
ever be released.
That was dark, man. I need to watch some SML videos to get my mind off this shit. But yeah. Very well done video, though, I would say. I mean, Disturbance is a really good channel. I heard about that channel for a while, and I'm just not the biggest fan of true crime after seeing that. After seeing what I saw that one day, it's just not my thing. But if it gets requested, I'll react to more. But for tonight, I'm gonna react to a lighter video tonight. But yeah, with that said, guys, thanks for watching. Take care. See you next video. It's always a pleasure to see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.